Pleasant good evening to everyone. I am Ms. Primus from Student Support Services. Welcome to our Career Fair 2021. It's a pleasure to have you with us. We have with us, working with me from Student Support Services, is Ms. Trisha Khan, Ms. Makisha Alexis, Ms. Alicia Tall, and Mrs. George, our supervisor. So today, we are going straight into our presentation. We have with us the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and we have with us Officer Lashley. Is Officer Lashley there? Good day. It's on your mic.
Hi, how are you?
I am excellent.
And we have Sergeant George as well.
Hi, Sergeant George. How are you?
I am also blessed.
These lovely ladies are from the protective services of our TTPS. So I'll give you all the opportunity to take it away and do your job.
Right. See the screen.
Oh.
She's supposed to share the screen.
Yes, we just need to share the screen a little bit, Miss Primus, please.
Hi, Miss Primus.
So we are asking that Miss Lashley and her colleague could share the screen, please. They would ask, we have to take.
Hi, permission is enabled. Go ahead and try.
Okay, good.
So he said, go ahead. Officer Lashley. Okay, great. Okay, we are seeing your screen.
Right.
Yes. So good morning, good afternoon, students. As I said before, my name is 14674 Woman Sergeant George. This is me on the left here. And we have with you all today is 18570 WC Ren Lashley. I'm from Southern Division Child Protection Unit, and she's from the Southwestern Division Child Protection Unit. So this is going to be a very, very short discourse on the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, hoping that one of you guys would want to join our illustrious service, and just be part of the country where you can serve your country, and just do the best that you can be. Yeah. So,
Sergeant George, is it okay if I disturb you 2 seconds? Yeah.
Sure,
is it possible that you can put your slide into like slideshow mode, because it's showing up as the slide with all the parts on the side of things. So if you can just.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome.
This one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is this better?
Wow, much better. Thanks much.
You're welcome. So the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is a civil and paramilitary body which functions in accordance with the Police Service Act, Chapter 1501. Basically, that means we are police officers and we also have civilians who work alongside us. There are over 6,500 police officers in varying ranks, starting from constables straight up to the commissioner of police. And we also have special reserve police officers who sometimes are part-time persons. Let's say sometimes your parents might be a special reserve, or your neighbor. They may have a job in the daytime, and in the nighttime they would come and work in the police service. So they are called special reserve police officers. And in much recent times, we've had officers who have left the police service and returned. So they have gotten a second stint in working in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. So they are just special reserve officers, but they do the same function as a regular police officers. We have 9 divisions, and we have over 18 branches, sections, squads, and units. So we have a wide array of places that persons can fit themselves into. Go ahead. Like, for example, we have community police who comes in and sees about the schools at time. You see them going around the neighborhood. We have police complaints. That's where civilians can go and make a report against the police if the police has done them wrong, and you feel that you've been wrongfully arrested or victimized, you can definitely go and make a report. You would see a picture down below there where there's a police officer on a motorcycle. We have that motorcycle section. We have the guard and emergency branch. Those are the ones that also do a lot of protection. We have special branch. They're the ones that guard and protect and escort the president, the prime minister, the opposition, judges, magistrates, and you would see them down below. You have persons
Check out the motorcycle.
the mountain and canine branch. If you happen to like horses, that's a perfect place for you. You can go. Just imagine you're being paid to actually be on a horse if you like horse. Also, we have a canine section if you like to deal with dogs. We have top of the line dogs. You can actually go and go there and work, and you're getting paid to actually do that. And we have lecturers. We have a wide array of sections. We have IT unit. I know we didn't label it here, but there's an IT unit. If you are into computers, that's a perfect place for you to be in. And then, of course, criminal investigations department, which is we are part of, because we do investigation, and that is the hub of the service, I would say. And what we basically do, what Trinidad and Tobago is mandated to do, is the maintenance of law and order within our country, prevention and detection of crime, and the prosecution of offenders, which is where we take them to court.
Okay, here we have a beautiful lady. She's our superintendent, Miss Claire Guy-Allen. She's in charge of both the Child Protection Unit and the gender base. All right, so the Child Protection Unit was established in 2015, and we are mandated to ensure that the nation's children are safe, secure, and well protected, as they are our future. You know, we're getting kind of old, right? We are guided by the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, mainly the Children's Act 12 of 2012. Gender-based violence is mandated to assist both adults and minors, and can be found in the 9 divisions, just like the Child Protection Unit. Okay? Okay, so this is Inspector Nutt. He's in charge of the Southwestern Division. I just needed to put him in there. All right, so the role of officers within the Child Protection Unit. Okay, so when we have a report, when something is wrong at home, like if you were sexually assaulted, abused, beaten, because that falls under cruelty, all right, beaten in excess, yes, that falls under cruelty. You can go to any station within Trinidad and Tobago and make an official report. Make sure and get a receipt for making that report. That message goes to the Child Protection Unit afterwards, right? Then we will contact you all. We'll contact you all. We will come to your home or ask you all to come to the station, right? Where statements will be recorded and a file is prepared. Now, when we prepare a file, it comprises of all the statements and everything that you said, right? So therefore, we need the truth at all times, yes? So it's handed over to our corporal, and certain instructions are received where we lay charges. And then we have to attend court. We also conduct patrols and assist community officers by going to schools and to ensure that, you know, each child is getting what they deserve, because that is their right, a right to an education, a right to be free. All right, moving along. All right, so we are in the Child Protection Unit. So let us define what a child is under the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. Under the Act 12 of 2012, a child means a person under the age of 18 years. So those who feel they're 17 and they feel they are an adult, no, you're under 18 years. So therefore you are still a child. Okay, so I'm handing over to Sergeant George for this one.
So some of the offenses are the child protection, and we're stressing child protection because that's where we are from. And gender-based, just to put in there, they deal with offenses, with violence against children and adults, right? So domestic violence, but they just renamed them. So we basically deal with the sexual offenses, part of it, sometimes the physical abuse, as Ms. Ren Lashley said, cruelty. So cruelty, it's not there, but the cruelty is where a parent or even a neighbor or somebody abuses this child in a physical manner to cause some sort of breaking on the skin, a blue-black mark, red marks, and the injury is so severe that the child must be medically examined. That's what we deal with. We deal with something called sexual penetration of a child. Don't forget a child is under the age of 18. And seeing that you are in Form 4 to Form 6 and you're ready for the place of work, we are going to be as honest and as raw as we can with you. So sexual penetration is where the penetration of a child's orifice, which is any sort of opening. It could be your vagina, it could be your anus, your mouth, your ears, sometimes your nose. We have some very freaky people out here.
Crazy people out here.
This penetration, a child cannot give any sort of permission unless it's a doctor for some sort of a medical emergency. So you cannot give no permission, as we are saying. That's why we are stressing. You cannot, right? You cannot give consent because you are under the age of 18. So once that occurs, your parent, an adult, a responsible person, the teacher, the guidance counselor, and neighbor can report that this child is being sexually abused, and that's where we come in. And we will meet you, we will investigate the matter, do medical, we go through the whole 9 yards, which is too much to explain right now, and where we will, of course, prosecute the person.
Yes.
Now, penetration of a child is not just adults, it's also your peers. So I don't want you thinking that you can have sex with your schoolmate. It is still against the law. You're not supposed to have sex because you're under 18. You cannot give consent.
Wait a little.
There's also something called sexual touching. That is no penetration. So there's no penetration at all, but there's touching of the genital areas, touching of the legs in a sexual manner. You know, people like to rub up on another legs, under the desk, or in a taxi, because we have a lot of reports where persons are touching children in taxis, in a maxi. They stand up on the side of the road, they pass and touch the young lady's breast. That is sexual touching.
Touch the butt.
Touching the butt. So you cannot do that. That is against the law. And I am saying to you, if any one of you has been a victim of that because you're a child, you can report it to the nearest station. You tell a responsible adult, tell your schoolmate, tell your classmate, tell your teacher, your guidance counselor, your principal, and they will report it to us. That is their role and function, to report it to the police.
Please tell somebody.
Causing or inciting a child to engage in sexual act. That is where someone else coerces you by either threat, they're making promises for you to do something that is against the law, which is either in some sort of sexual act. So if it's of touching, they tell you, come and touch me here, or they want to touch you and they tell you, it's okay, that's how we show love. That is a no. They promise to give you something, buy you a sneakers, buy you a school bag. Them new bags are going, you know, they love to promise these things. Promise to buy you lunch, for you to do something that is causing or inciting a child to engage in sexual act, and that is also against the law. We have causing a child to watch a sexual act. So that is pornography. That is pictures. Sometimes you're on Facebook and somebody sends you a picture. No, that is a no. You cannot be watching pornography. And pornography, by the way, it is any sort of nudity, lewd act, sexual act of children. Hear the word children or even adults. But the thing is, because you're a minor, you're not supposed to be looking at pornography, and no one is supposed to show you pornography.
Agreed.
We also have something called meeting a child following sexual grooming. What is sexual grooming? This is when an adult will groom you. Grooming means he or she will say, hey, Sugars, you're looking good today, no?
You're sexy.
You're sexy.
Resting.
You know, they love to tell the young ladies how nice they're going to become, and I wish I could be your boyfriend. Girl, I wish I was your man. I'm just paraphrasing. So they would say these things. They would promise you stuff. They would speak to you nicely. They would promise to drop you down. Girl, you can wait on me every day. I will drop you down.
Lyrics.
Give you, correct, want of a better word, lyrics. They may want to buy you a cell phone. They would want to send you text messages and tell you, and then they would tell you, don't tell your parents. They may give you money, very small amounts of money, then it would go into more. And then eventually they'll ask to meet you somewhere or take you somewhere. It could just be in a taxi. It could be anywhere, meet you on the road. And once they do what they're supposed to, what they want to do, which is, of course, some sort of a sexual act, that is where we come in. But before it reaches there, you will know you're being groomed, because why is this adult, male or female, because they're also females, encouraging you to do these things? True. So from the time that happens, you know that something is wrong. Now, there are hosts and there's a list of other offenses against children that you can also look at on the site. So go on the site, because you all are very tech savvy, and look for the Children's Act 12 of 2012, and you see a whole list of others. Now, don't forget, these acts can also be done that by persons that you trust and you know, your neighbor, your uncle, your cousin, your grandparents. There's no limit. We have seen it all. We have investigated all, so there's nothing that surprises us. So be very wary. And I know a lot of you may actually be very mature for your age, in size and even mentally. So you have to be very careful. You are a child, so therefore you cannot give consent to any of these sexual offenses. You cannot have sex. You are not supposed to have sex.
All right. So we are going to deal with the rights of a child. Okay. You know, children feel that they got some rights up in there. All right. So yes, you all do have rights. You all have a right to an education. You all have a right to be safe. You all have a right to be allowed to play, to be heard. Okay. And a right to affection, love, understanding, a right to be protected against any form of neglect, cruelty, or exploitation, a right to medical care. Just as you all have rights, you all have responsibilities. Okay, so we're moving along. Rules for children under God's law. Now, we are both Christians, yes, and we believe that children also have the responsibility to be obedient. As the Bible says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Ephesians 6. Check it out. Honor your father and your mother so that your days may be long. So when you hear cussing out your mommy and cussing out your dad, remember what WPC Lashley said, that you want your days to be long so that your hair could get white. Remember to honor your father and your mother. Obedience is better than sacrifice. And we're asking that you all be kind to one another. When I say be kind to one another, I want you all to, what you don't like for yourself, don't do it to someone else. Okay? It's just plain wrong. There's right and there's wrong. There's good and there's bad. Yes? There are a lot of negativity that surrounds children. Peer pressure. Oh my. School is not open, but yet we still have it, you know, where children will encourage children to steal someone's lunch, to slap this person, to say mean things to this person, all of that falling under bullying, cybercrime. They're putting up pictures of the changing. Sometimes they have a video and they put the person's face on it and doing all kind of negative things. I'm going to let Sergeant George talk about anxiety and depression and physical abuse. The physical abuse really, though, I'm going to just say something relative to physical abuse. Physical abuse does not mean that your mother tell you to wash your wares and she hit your tap because you didn't wash it. Get it together. Physical abuse is not, you could wash your clothes, clean the house, sweep your room. There are certain levels relative to physical abuse. Okay.
Yes. So anxiety is where you feel this overwhelming rush. It's like you can't breathe. You're having something called a panic attack. It's like the room spinning, you don't know what's going on, your heart beating so fast. And that is because it's either you're studying something is bothering you, mommy and daddy fighting, somebody has interfered with you and you don't know how to deal with it, so that your body just responds in this particular way. That is not good for a child, a teenager. I know exams, are coming up right now. So some may be feeling a bit anxious, but I want you to know, and overwhelmed. You need to just calm yourself, take it one day at a time, study one subject at a time, ask for help, take a break, walk around the house. I know COVID is here and you can't go outside, walk around the yard, get a hobby that you can do whilst you are at home, read a book. Cooking, some house chores, if you do house chores, if you don't, but just try to calm yourself, meditate if you can, so that you can relax yourself. And then there's depression, which is never good. It's a chemical imbalance, so that when you are depressed, all sorts of negative thoughts come into your head. Sometimes it might lead to suicidal thought. When you're depressed, it's because I can't go anywhere. There are a lot of persons who have become depressed because of this COVID and this lockdown, because they no longer can go outside, as they say, and spread the wings. They can't see their friends. But then there's healthy and good social media so that you can deal with that, right? If ever you're feeling depressed, there's something called Childline where you can call and speak to somebody and they will definitely walk you through it and get you through it. You have your teachers, you have your guidance counselors that you can speak to. You have a priest. If it is some of you are religious, you speak to someone who's in authority and let them know how you feel, right? Because it's not good. Physical abuse, as Ms. Lashley said, it's not where your parents just give you a little beating or anything. As I grew up and I got some licks, but it was not abusive. There is physical abuse where some parents take it too far, and that's where we come in, or even the gender base comes in, where we would have to arrest the parents. Yes. So be very wary and be mindful of what is too much abuse. You can report it. And of course, teenage pregnancy. What else? We have a ton of young ladies who are becoming pregnant. And most of them never meant it. They say sorry because they're having premarital sex, which is a no.
Sin.
It is not good. So you cannot be having premarital sex because you're going to put the other person in trouble. You're going to put your peer in trouble because now you have brought a baby into the world and you yourself, you are a child. And then the burden now would also go back onto your parents. However, if it happens, then there's also social services that can assist you. But we are trying to tell you to desist from having premarital sex. Lack of love in homes. That is something that is really big. But I know times are changing, so it's also changing. But before, and even now, parents don't tell children that they love them. They don't give them a hug. They don't give them a kiss. They don't say, love you, baby. They don't say, you're my beautiful daughter. You're my handsome son.
Oh, good job. Compliment.
Good job. Compliment. Those things are love in the house. So if you happen to be one of those who did not have love in the home, or lack of love, it does not mean you have to go forward and be that kind of person where you don't show love. So let's change that mindset. You don't have love. Actually, you start showing your parents love. Hug your parents, hug your aunt, hug your grandfather, whoever it is, whoever you're living with, and say, I love you. Tell them, and then it will start to pay back. As I said, it will pay forward, and you see the love can develop into your home. And then, of course, there's poverty. Some of us would have gone through poverty, whereas we always didn't have food. That's sometimes where I grew up. When I was growing up, I didn't always have food to eat. I would have to wait for my mother to come or something like that. And then you're like, and I wanted certain things. I wanted to go certain places. I wanted clothes. I wanted shoes, and I did not have it, but I didn't go stealing anything.
True.
You don't have to steal anything. You don't have to say, oh, woe is me. You will, I am saying to you, you will come out of that avenue in your life, because that's what you are in school. The government is providing so much more now than before. There's a lot of social services where you can go and get help, books, you name it. Just go online and look at the social service aspect, and you will see where you definitely can get help. And there are many other negative things that we won't really want to go into because of your age group, we will want to take questions. If you have questions, you can post your questions now, and your guidance counselor would help us. And then, of course, there's the biggest thing right now in Trinidad and Tobago, missing persons. We deal also with missing persons, as well as anti-kidnapping unit. The station deals with missing persons. We are all one big body, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and we all play a part in missing person. A missing person is someone whose whereabouts is unknown for whatever the circumstance. Sometimes you have so many children who are running away for social, economic reasons, poverty. Somebody has offered them a better chance to say, hey, I can get you some food, Your parents, I could take care of you better than your parents, and you may be lured into that. Some of them go to meet boyfriends, go to meet girlfriends just because their parents said no. And now more, if you realize there's a lot more missing persons because of this COVID, because there's now, as we say, locked down again, so that they just want to get out. So they're leaving all hours of the morning, all hours of the night, they're going out. And they're just doing all sorts of things. And then when the police meet them, sometimes they say they didn't do anything, but sometimes we know better. Sometimes actually you may not have done anything, you just wanted to be out. But it's a very scary thing to leave home without telling your parent or the person who's in charge of you where you're going. I want you to imagine you do that, how your parent or your guardian would feel. They don't know what happened to you. They don't know if you're kidnapped. They don't know if you're dead. As you can see some of the pictures here, some of these people have died. So you don't know what your parents are feeling, what going through their mind. It's a very scary thing to know that your loved one is missing and they ran away without you leaving a note or anything. So put yourself in your parents' shoes, because one day most of you will become parents and you want that to happen to you. Right? And some people go missing because of abduction by a stranger, which is a kidnapping. And we don't want kidnapping. Some people go where their parents take them because of a custody battle. But we're saying these are all the reasons. But the most of the times is young people, and I'm saying young persons underage who's just running away to go have fun. We're saying be careful, please.
It have COVID.
Be careful, stay home.
Stay home. Okay, so on the screen now, you can contact us, the secretariat. That is the where the superintendent is. We have numbers there. So we have Southwestern Division, Central Division, Northern, Eastern Division, Northeastern, Western, Tobago, Port of Spain Division, and Southern Division. All these numbers you can in any district, right? We are also on Facebook. You can check out the police service app. All these things, right? That you can, Instagram and all, you can contact us relative to if you have a report and you would like to share, you would like to speak to someone, you can contact us, okay? These are just some officers who are attached to both South and Southwestern, right? Present and past. Some would have left the child protection unit and gone on to a different section or unit, but we are all here to give us service. All right, let's go back a bit. Some safety tips. Okay, so I'm sure that everybody have a cell phone. Most of you all have a cell phone, right? When you use your cell phone for bad things, okay, maybe to talk to someone on Instagram or on WhatsApp, to even go on Facebook, all these things. Some of these people go in these places and use these different media, which is social media, falling under social media, to meet young girls. Now, we have a lot of children going missing, right? And the phone is the main culprit. That is the only way that they can reach them really, through the cell phones, right? They lure you to meet me by the corner, meet me San Fernando, all these different things. Meet me on the cross. You know, everybody like to go and get burger and gyro and all these different things. So they encourage you to leave your homes, right? And sometimes your parents don't see you again. All right, sometimes your parents don't see you again. So we are asking that, you know, you remain safe if you're going out, go in groups. All right, safety at home. Okay, let somebody know where you are. All right, at all times.
So basically, this is the recruitment process. I know it's a bit small and you may not see everything, but we are saying if you want to make the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service a career, you can, because you can do lots of things. As I said, there's so many different units and branches and sections that you can actually advance your career. And the basic requirement is that you must have a Trinidad and Tobago Police ID card or a passport. You must have that. You must also have a driver's permit class 3, because we want you to come in to be a driver. But sometimes you really do need drivers, so we want you coming driver, as they would say, driver ready, so that you can drive. You must have a birth certificate, 6 valid ID photos, pictures of yourself. You must be a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago and of good character. So, you know, we don't really want anybody with too much of a long, bad character. He was arrested how many times with various offenses. You should not be less than 18 years. You must be 18 years and over. So that all tells you, if you're under 18, you're a child and you're not taking any children. So you must be 18 years and over, and you cannot be more than 35 years of age. Males, you must be of good physique and at least 167 centimeters in height. Females also must be of good physique, which means, you know, you're good, you're strongly built, and you must at least be 150 centimeters. Now, educational requirements, you must possess 5 CXC subjects, general proficiency, which includes English, grades 1, 2, and 3. Yes, so these are the things that you need to become a police officer in Trinidad and Tobago. So we have time for some questions. If there are any questions, we are willing to take questions at this point in time, or give any sort of suggestions or feedback that you would like.
Yes, Sergeant, we have some questions. How many subjects is needed to join the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service?
5.
5 inclusive of English.
English and maths.
Grades 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. How can we get into the Child Protection Unit? What are the qualifications?
Well, you must become a police officer first. And you will be trained for maybe a year to 2 years. And when you get into the police service, then you can actually request to be transferred to the Child Protection Unit. And of course, you must have a love for children because it's not easy.
It's
some
not
of you,
easy.
some of you kids, not easy, young adults.
Yes, yes. Attitude.
We know we get it. One of the things I personally would like to ask as a guidance counselor, if I know a child who is probably who is being abused by a parent, and I'm living at Presal or Point Fortin, can I make a report to the
You can make a report in any station. The Child Protection Unit is in each division, and the report will be dealt with accordingly.
Okay. What is the youngest age you can join the police service?
18 years.
18 years.
I was saying to the Coast Guard a while ago, our students get very excited when it comes to the military, yeah? So police, everything. How many locations are there?
How many?
Locations.
We have 9 divisions,
divisions.
so we have 9 locations.
Okay. How long is the training?
6 months. 6 months. So you have agility, you must be fit, and then you will have different topics that they will train you in as well.
Okay. How long does it take to become an officer?
Well, we just said 6 months,
6 months,
approximately.
approximately, yeah.
So they're probably thinking that when you train, you have to do something else or do another course or something.
No.
You
No.
get all the training right there. You get all the educational training that you need because you have to know the laws of the land. There's something called police duties. Then you just need to know. They will train you on how, when you go out, how you speak to a civilian, how you effect an arrest. So we have a lot of, and how to use firearms, most
Firearms
importantly,
as well.
especially for the men who may have an inclination, who
They will
want
even
to.
train you to match.
They will even train you to match. Left, right, left,
Left,
right.
right, left, right, left, right.
Officer Lashley, you all are easy. I am seeing you all doing this presentation and I am falling over laughing because it's so lively, you know, it's so passionate. We see that you all enjoy what you do, right? And I know the children are well protected because I know, well, I have dealt with Officer Lashley and she have a passion for those children. I know
Oh.
that. Of the children. So we have no more questions at this moment.
Right.
You know, we know you all take time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Do you all want to say anything to maybe a student who doesn't know what they want to become? Do you have any advice to those students?
I'm saying, okay, just think about what you are passionate about. Because if you don't like it, you will not put your heart and your soul into it. Whether it be Coast Guard, whether it be fire, whether it be the police service, whether it be hospitality, whether it be tourism, do something that you love. Do something that you enjoy. That is my advice.
Okay, what is an average day like as a person in the Child Protection Unit?
Wow. So I'll take that one. We have good days, we have bad days. I'm not going to kid you. Generally, you come to work, you meet other officers, you sort of meet and greet, find out how everybody was, and then you start to get the phone calls or the reports that come in that deals with a child. You have to assess which one sometimes is more important because sometimes you have more than one coming in. So you need to know, do I go to Labre Police Station or do I go to Superior because we do them at Southwestern at the point, right?
Do I go to Cedros?
Or do we go to Cedros and deal with that particular report? It all depends. But once we get there, we put on our boots, as we say, we strap up our boots and we start to work because they are children. And at the end of the day, our mandate is to protect them talk to them, bond with them, find out what they need. Is it really a matter to go before the court, or is it that this matter is a socio-economic meaning? Is it that they need counseling from victim, witness, and support, or do we need to get in contact with a guidance officer? But at the end of the day, we must feel, I especially must feel that I have done something.
Done my best.
I have done my best to help this particular child, because each child is actually so different. Their situation is different. But sometimes I must say to the bad side is sometimes it's a long day.
Yes.
Sometimes the children are so traumatized, they don't say anything, and you have to work with them. You have to work with the parents. You have to work with the time frame. And if they need to get a medical, you also have to work with these DMOs that I'm not going to say much about.
Yes,
but
we're going to leave that alone.
But the point is, there's a host of LEA, as they say, law enforcement agencies, and a lot of other medical stuff that needs to be done. So it's a holistic something that, that has to be done on a daily basis.
Sometimes we even act like community officers as well. Mothers.
I heard Sergeant George spoke about medical. So you all have doctors attached to the Child Protection Unit.
They're not attached. We have a body that's called the Children's Authority. They are also mandated to assist children basically under the age of 18 with medical. So we tend to lean on them to help us with medicals. Right? They're special. They deal with the children totally different compared to a normal doctor in the emergency section.
Okay, good.
But if it is fresh, like if it's something that happened last night, okay, the DMOs will assist us in the medical, well, with the medical.
In the health center or the hospital?
In the health centers or in the hospitals.
Okay. What about, we are seeing 2 females. What about males? Do you all have males in the Child Protection?
Of course,
Yes,
we
do.
have a lot of males. It's just they happen just to choose 2 of us for today, but we do have a lot of males involved, because sometimes we have reports involving males, young boys, and sometimes the men would, they would bond with each other differently compared to the females.
Yes.
And then we also have some females would bond with the male officers better, not bonding in no sort of way, but the fact that they may tend to deal with this particular male because of how he speaks and because he may be authoritative in that particular way, or maybe remind them of, their father, and they're like, he's a comfort, so they would deal with the men. So we do have men, and of course we need them for the muscle power, because of sometimes we have to go and arrest persons. But they do an effective job just like the females.
Okay, we have one more question for Sergeant George. How long did it take you to become a sergeant?
Well, actually, this is my 21 years in the service.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't look like that. So 21 years I'm in the service.
That's swanky.
And it took me, I was a corporal in 2008. I joined the service in 2000. Let me say 2008, 2009, 2014, I was a corporal. And then in 2016, I became a sergeant.
Very ambitious.
So that was just like a 2-year difference, but right.
It was very hard. Do you have an exam to sit?
Of course. All of your years experience is summed up in an exam, where you do an exam. Just basically, it's all about what you have been doing before. Right? So they ask you, what kind of a crime is this? So they kind of test your knowledge into, do you know the difference or the ingredients? And I'm saying ingredients. So let's say you effect a crime of larceny. You have to know what constitutes a larceny. They will ask you exams about that. And you have to write, that's a written exam. And then of course we have something called an interview, where you have to go now and speak to a panel of persons. And you have to sort of sell yourself and let them know, hey, I am ready for this rank. Because once you go up, that's a supervisory role. A corporal is a supervisor, then a sergeant is a supervisor, and then the inspector is ultimately in charge of a station district. So that's a lot of responsibility. So you have to know your onion. So that's why we're saying the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is somewhere where you can be career oriented. You can actually go out and study something else like human resource, business management, because we need people to also manage persons who is the best fit for what particular area. So even if you want to become somebody to do human resource, police service is the place you can come and actually study to become a human resource
You don't only
manager.
have to run down bandits. You
You
can
don't-
dress up nice like us and still charge and do good things.
Miss
And
Lashley.
Ashley, thank you all so much.
You're
WPC
welcome.
Ashley, Sergeant George, we are happy to have you all the information that you have given to us. We really appreciate it. And you know, the students will continue to have questions.
Sure.
And is there an email address? Is there a website that we could go to contact you all?
Well, you can contact us at the Child Protection Unit Secretariat, CPU_Secretariat at the ttps.gov.tt, or you can just simply go on Facebook for the
call us.
TTPS.
Oh, call us.
TTPS is on the Facebook. You can go, you can send a message there. Our numbers at Southwestern and Southern is 677-6951. You can call to ask for myself or Miss Lashley, and we will field any other questions. Plus, we're on Instagram. Get the police service app. You can do whatever you need. And of course, the email. My personal email is dana.george@ttps.gov.tt, and hers is Darlene
Ren
Lashley. Darlene.ren-lashley@ttps.gov.tt.
One more question. Do you all have a hotline for children?
We don't. The hotline we use is Children's Authority,
800-2014.
800-2014. And you can do it anonymously, just in case that you don't want your parents to know that you're calling. You can just let them know, I don't want to say anything. And then, of course, there's Child Line.
Yes.
Yes, we know about Childline.
Right.
Our children are very familiar with Childline.
And they can also contact you, Ms. Primus, and you will get in contact with us.
They know that. They know that very well. So we really want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule. Thank you, Sergeant George. We know you all are busy. WPC, Lashley, I know you are very busy. You are always on the
That's okay.
time for our school and our students at Superior West. And we know even in St. Patrick, we really want to thank you all for making the time. The information is very relevant, especially now that a lot of our students are at home and some of those students really need your intervention. So we really thank you for being here. If we need you all, we are going to call you all, and our children are well protected by your services.
Thank you
Any
very
last-
much. It's a
Thank you.
pleasure being here.
All right. So thank you. We just want to say God bless you and enjoy the rest of the day. So
You
we
too.
just finished with Children Protection Unit, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We are two beautiful women, two personalities that are very inviting, that you could, you would want to call, you would want to interact with. We are thanking them for their service. And now we are going to continue with our career fair. We just want to take a short break and have one video while we go on to the other person who is going to come, the other presenter.
Have thought of suicide. Some of you are in the darkest of darkest valleys, and I was there once too. I was 8 years old, depressed, 9 years old, even darker. At 10 years old, I came to the edge, and I thought to myself, there is no hope.
At age 10, tried to drown myself in 6 inches or 15 centimeters of water. In my home, relax. But really, I wanted to end. I had enough. The first 2 times I rolled over, I was trying to work out how much air I hold in my lungs before I let it out. And the 3rd time, knowing to get out of here because of the bullying in my life, because I was going to be a burden to my parents and I had nothing to look forward to. I realized at that moment that if I actually went through with committing suicide, I would leave a greater burden for my parents than they already had. So when I saw in my mind my mum and my dad and my brother crying at my grave, that one thought saved me. The power of encouragement. You can save a person's life. You may have arms and legs, but unless you know three things. Number one, who are you and what your value is? Number two, what is your purpose here in life? And number three, what is your destiny when you're done here? If you don't know the answers of any of those three questions, you're more disabled than I. If I gave you $1 billion, would you be happy? If you gave me $1 billion, I'd be very happy. But then if my mum dies tonight, am I happy? No. But life is worth living when you find, Nick, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know. My parents want me to do this. My teachers want me to do that. My friends think that I should do this, and I don't know what to do. And you're torn, man. You don't know what to do. You have to make important decisions, man. You don't know what to do. Who do you believe? Follow your heart. If that's who you want to be, if that's what you want to do in life, then walk to it. One day at a time. You got to come to the truth of knowing who you are.
And we are continuing with our presentations. Thanking Tech for their assistance. We have with us persons from NADAP. We have, good evening, how are you? Miss Augustus, good evening.
Hello, hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I am having challenges with the internet, so you may not hear everything I'm saying. If you want me to repeat, please let me know.
Certainly will.
Okay. Hi, Miss Annette, how are you keeping?
I am great.
It's a pleasure to have you with us again.
Thank you for having me, for having us, my organization.
Yes, yes, yes. You all are always partnering with us, and we thank you for your time. So you just take it away, do your, just let us know all the information you have for us, let our students into your world.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you again, Ms. Primus. Good afternoon to the other members. I hope everyone is doing okay and being safe outside there.
Yes,
right. I'm very happy to be part of your career fair. This career fair brought back memories to me. I was once a guidance counselor, so it's nothing new or far. This afternoon at NADAP, we're going to be presenting the barriers to achieving your goals. So we will not be taking the slant of the positions or how to get in NADAP, but I can tell you that at NADAP, our staff consists of the coordinator, we have coordinators, we have the drug education officers, we have research officers, administrative staff, and I hold the position as a program officer for school and community. My role is what I'm doing here. I am disseminating information, giving information. I do program planning for schools, community, and walks of society and the workplace. So to get into the position is a love for substance misuse education. And you need more than just the O-levels, the degree. They love to help and understand what is going on with individuals who are suffering with the disease of substance abuse. Okay, so I'll go right into our presentation for today. drugs a barrier to achieving your dreams. So can I have the screen, please? Hi, hello.
You can share. Ms.
My presentation was sent.
Okay. Written on the text to share your presentation.
In the meanwhile, while the technicians are sorting out themselves at your end, I generally like to speak with the students. At this time of your life, you are making a decision to go into another phase. You have been through the preschool stage, your primary school stage, you're at the secondary level towards advancement in your life, academic life, which will lead to your career. And during that stage, you'll have a lot of issues, academic issues. You may and experiencing right now the social issues of staying at home, working online, not having interaction with your friends, your teachers, and can be challenging. As an adult, it is challenging for me at times. So let not your heart be fearful. Don't give up. Just do what you have to do and you will achieve your goal, but in a different pathway. Not the usual pathway of face to face. No, you're working online, you're getting information, and you can move on. Okay? So out of the crisis you're having, you're getting growth. So you can use information to go ahead.
Mr. Augustus, can you share? Do you have your point?
Yeah, I will try to share.
Okay, so the idea. I will let you know if it's screen. What was the name of your presentation?
The St. Patrick Career Day.
All right. It seems he has a problem locating it. So if you can share it, it will be good. Thanking you for your advice to the students.
Yeah,
We,
all right, I'm
you
trying to
have
get
this.
there.
You're sharing it? You got it through?
No, I'm not as yet. I had a little problems.
So it has another already.
Yeah,
That's it?
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello?
This is you or the tech is showing this? This is from you, Mr. Augustus?
Yeah,
or
this is from
the
me. This is my photo here.
Okay.
I'm not understanding what's going on because I'm clicking on the sharing and it's not happening.
And it's not sharing.
No.
I am trying to communicate with you now. Miss Annette, are you there? Miss Augustus?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I was asking you, as someone who is in NADA, could you give us what is the meaning of NADA and what is it like working there?
Hello, can you repeat what you're saying? I'm not hearing you clearly.
Not yet, me clearly.
Right, I'm not hearing you.
Okay, what is the meaning of NADA? Can you give us the meaning of NADA, please?
Certainly, NADAP is the National Alcohol Drug Abuse Prevention Program.
Okay.
And our essential role and responsibility is the drug demand reduction. We deal with the mandate to develop and coordinate information which will facilitate the national efforts in the prevention and reduction of demand for illicit drugs, illegal and illegal drugs.
Oh, okay. And as a what is your day like?
Oh, my day. Well, usually it consists of implementing programs, doing research, attending meetings, doing assisting, overseeing work, supervising is drug education officers if we have any programs to deal with. Before the lockdown, before the COVID, we used to be out on visits and sites, having interaction with the general public, organizations pertaining to the information of substance use and misuse. Oh yeah, there it is.
That's it.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay then. Sorry about the delay, people, but let's go. Our presentation entitled "The Barrier to Achieving Your Drugs." And when we say a barrier to achieving our drugs, what we look at, as I mentioned earlier on, in NADAP's role, and I did clearly define what we do. We also do demand reduction, what it is. Slide, please. Can someone change the slide for me? All right. All right. So the following slide, demand reduction. Slide change. Okay, great. What we do to improve the physical and mental, social and economic health of the well-being of the citizen. When we say that the physical, mental, social and economic health of the individual, we give information how drugs can affect you in that context and through prevention, treatment and rehabilitation. We at NADAP don't actually do the rehab, but we oversee some of the activities of the rehab centers in Trinidad and Tobago and making sure that they are up to standard, the standard of care for the client. All right, so here are your barriers to drug education and drugs that's preventing you from achieving your career goal. I'll be talking briefly on what is a drug, the impact of substance use on the adolescent psychological development, the impact of substance use on academic development, the impact of the consequences of substance use on career development and prevention tips. All right, so drugs. What is a drug? It's any substance with the exception of food and water. Yes, people, food and water, which when taken into the body alters the body's function either physically and or psychologically. So if you take you're hungry and you have eaten something, you get energy, you feel good. You are thirsty, you drink some juice, you drink water, you feel good. So it alters that, it changes that feeling that you're feeling from hunger to fulfillment. All right, so food and water, with the exception of food and water, if you take anything else into your body, it alters your function of your body. All right, drugs may be legal, alcohol, caffeine, and tobacco. These things are legal for only adults, 18 plus. We are dealing with adolescents, and it is illegal for you guys. And the illegal drugs are cannabis, ecstasy, cocaine, and heroin. This is just a few. It is totally illegal for adults, likewise adolescents. And you may ask yourself, why do people use drugs in general? Because they keep hearing these things. Because they want to fit in. They want to relax, maybe going through some depression. They want to achieve a particular high. They want to escape whatever problems or issues they're having. They want how to cope with a stressful situation. They're under stress, so cope. Right now, we are under a lot of stress with the COVID-19 and the restrictions. So people may use alcohol, cigarette, marijuana, and any other drugs of their likeness. They are bored, and boredom takes place a lot. You don't have to be a teenager, but we are dealing with teenagers, boredom, peer pressure. Your friends may be using, okay, to fit in. All right, if they are using and I am not using, I might feel I'm not part of the group. And generally, be rebellious. Teenagers and adults can be rebellious, but we're dealing particularly with you teenagers can be rebellious. So in spite of all of these things, when you take these things, the drugs, any of those particular reasons, one thing can happen to you. You can become addicted to the drug. So you're taking it over a period of time for these purposes, and you can become addicted. Addiction takes place. Move on. So here are some common drugs that adolescents misuse today and throughout their lifetime. Alcohol. Now, the thing is, when I take the alcohol, I feel good, but alcohol is a central nervous system depression, and it affects almost all the cells and systems in the body. So alcohol is a depressant. So when you take it, it brings you down. What's in a cigarette? You take cigarette, you use cigarette. So cigarette has almost or a little more than 4,000 substances when you light up a cigarette. And out of those 4,000 substances, over 60 of them are carcinogens. And carcinogens are cancer-causing substances which affects the body. Nicotine in the cigarette is the addictive ingredient which can be very poisonous. It is very poisonous, and that is the poisonous substance in the drug. Right? The content within the cigarette. So if you are around a cigarette, see someone smoking a cigarette, almost everybody may have been exposed to a cigarette, whether you're using or you see someone or you saw it in the supermarket, groceries. This is what consists of a cigarette. In the cigarette, lighter fluid, yes, industrial solvent, vinegar, rocket fluid, all right, the candle wax, toilet bowl cleaner, the acetone and nail polish removers, and that removes the paint from off walls and stuff, right? The liquid that comes out from a battery, if you have a battery in an appliance and the battery pass or burst, you see sometimes a little liquid or a little dust coming out of it. That is in a cigarette. And you may ask yourself, how can all of those substances or components be in a cigarette? It's just a few grams of it that consist together, and that makes up the contents of the cigarette. So after hearing all of that, rat poison, do you still want to smoke a cigarette? Think about it. Let's move on. Right. Another common drug that is used among teenagers, cannabis, and which is commonly called marijuana, but we have other names, the weed, the herb, podgrass, local high, the Vinci, Mary Jane, Sensi, all of those things. These are the names that are commonly used to describe the marijuana. However, the ingredients in the marijuana, the main psychoactive chemical in marijuana is responsible for the effect that people experience. And that psychoactive component is called delta-9 tele, oh Lord, it slipped me. Hydrocannabinoid, the THC, which is very, very very dangerous for you. Intoxicate you. Some people may experience high, some people experience low, but it has an effect on you. But a drug is an alteration of the mind. Let's move on. Right. As adolescents, this is what is happening with you whenever you take the marijuana. As you see, there's an image of the brain. The big yellow portion of the brain there in the diagram is a judgment. There you're seeing a different arrows pointing out the effects of the marijuana on the teenage brain. At this stage of your life, you are still developing, your brain is still developing. So whenever you use a drug, regardless of marijuana, tobacco, alcohol, it affects this core functioning of your brain. Okay? So you're unable, your movement, your coordination, your judgment, reward and pleasure, you have no understanding, fear, anxiety, you're numb to pain. It affects all of those functioning parts, those developmental stages in your brain. As we move on. So what's new in cannabis? We are living in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and the law stated, Act 24 of 2019 stated certain things pertaining to cannabis. Now, young people, cannabis is not legal. The law decriminalized a certain quantity of marijuana for individuals can use. Okay, no more than 30 grams of cannabis or 5 grams of cannabis resin, that's the oil that you can have in your person and you will not be charged. Anything more than that is against the law. Not for you, that is for adults. A person who has in his possession more than 30 grams, but more than 60 grams of the cannabis or more than 5 grams of the oil can be charged a fine of $50,000. A person who has in his possession more than 60 grams, remember the law said 30, so that is twice the amount. Okay, you will be charged a fine of $75,000. So be mindful, youngsters, when you're hearing that, okay, everybody can have cannabis. You are not allowed to have it. You are a minor. It is still illegal for you. And this law that was passed is pertaining to adults. All right? So be careful and be mindful of what is taking place. If you are caught in the possession of those things, there is a fine. Your parents will be involved because you're still a minor. And you'll have to have an interaction with the lovely individuals that you had spoken with before, the law of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm not saying that you'll be charged, but you will have an interaction with them. As we move on. Right, abnormalities in the brain. What is happening while you're using drugs? Okay, self-control. That part of your brain, the frontal part, the prefrontal cortex of your brain, you are now developing. That is for control, judgment, will not be up to standard. Decision making, you just want to sleep. You'll be studying at the moment your loved ones, your first love, your kiss, all of these little things that, you know, maybe supposed to be at normal and supposed to be functioning normally in your brain, how you're supposed to be functioning normally will not be going along as it should, because the use of drug at this stage in your life has put a barrier towards the development of your brain and everything is going haywire. All right, let's continue. You're in school. You're an adolescent. You're living in the life. You're living in life. The impact of substance use on adolescent psychological development. At this stage in your life, you are the greatest risk takers. You're taking risks of everything. You are told no, okay, I will do it. I will do it and they will not know. I could do that and nobody will know. Take a risk. All right? Adolescents, you're this thing, you're more responsive to the rewards of the risk. So you can talk about, hey, I did it, and sir didn't know, miss didn't know, my mother didn't know. Nobody in there, nobody knows. That is how you are going through. That is some of your developmental thoughts right now. That's your behavior component. You take a lot of risks. You are less sensitive to the ills of the substance use. Now, you must feel that I'm invincible. I will not get sick. This will not happen to me. I could smoke and drink and be normal. It's a normal scene. It is not a normal scene. You're doing it because of. Remember, you are still developing the capacity of judgment and self-control. So, using the substance, your brain is developing, you will have some barriers for this part of your function to take place normally. All right, decision makings will be very negative most of the time. As we move along. So as I said earlier on, your cognitive function and your development, it affects your concentration. You're in school and you cannot concentrate. You're at home, you're not concentrating. Your mom or your parents may just speak to you and you're in a daze. You're just in school with all those subjects you're doing. What is going to happen? Your memory affected. You cannot remember what was stated in the last subject. What you have to do, I forget I had homework to do. You forget your parents may inform you to do something, do a particular chore at home, and you forget. Your attention span is very, very limited. Become restless and unable to function by concentration. Okay, as we move on. Drugs and school. What is happening to you when you're at school and substance is the order of the day? High level of absenteeism from classes. You're not in class, you're at the back of the block, you may not attend school, or you're in school but in another classroom, another area. When you do go to class, very disruptive behavior. The teacher cannot teach properly or carry on the class and hers or her capacity because you're disruptive. You're causing others to laugh, joke, all the disruptive behavior. Then you are suspended. When you're suspended, what is going to happen? You're home from school, you're missing classes, or I think you still have the learning enhancement centers. I mean, the center there, and then you have to deal with that behavior, right? But however, you're away from school, you're not getting the schoolwork to go ahead towards your career. Interaction with the law because you are dealing with an illegal substance and your age factor. You're unable to effectively write an exam because you cannot remember the work. If you're not absent, if you're there in classroom, disruptive behavior, your memory is affected, concentration is affected. You cannot function effectively. What happens? Failure. You fail to function effectively in school for the coming years, right? You have no passes, whatever, so you cannot get a proper job. You have a negative school report. Mary, John, or Harry, or when you come to get your report from school, absence, suspension, you name it, right? Eventually, some people may just drop out of school. But I hope none of you online is going to drop out from school because you will not be involved in substance use. Let's move on. The consequences of use and misuse. Yes, there are consequences. So when you are a substance user, you are minor, your family, your parents are still responsible for you. So your family is involved. Interaction with the law. So you may have to go to court. Your family is involved, coming to school regularly. Letter from the principal, you need to come in school for a meeting, turn into something. You get yourself involved in crime. You might start stealing. You might start, as you're saying, running with the wrong crowd. Violence, you become very violent. Violent towards your parents when they speak to you, violence around your classmates, towards authority, violence towards yourself. Yeah, you are doing harm to self. Your health factors may deteriorate. Your developmental stages. This is how you have entered puberty and certain body changes take place in your life. When you're using the substance, it changes the functionality of your organs and open the gateway for you to have illnesses. So that can be affected. It will be affected. Economic aspect. What is going on with your economic aspect? Your parents give you money to attend school, and instead of coming to school, you take that money and purchase substances. You buy a cigarette, marijuana, alcohol. You have a turnover, all right? You may come in school and you may use it. So you get money. Or you get yourself involved with your community that is using. So you have friends that is using. So here the economic factor is a turnover for you. However, as a minor, your family again is back involvement, crime with the law, violence, your health. The economic factor is a short-lived factor at this stage of your life. You can get a long-term economic gain when you are successful in your career. Towards a career, you obtain your passes, you get the job that you like, and you're gainfully employed. And you can be an upstanding citizen within your community. So that's a positive aspect of it. Don't allow the negative aspect to take over to hinder you from dreaming and achieving your goals. As we go along, we look at the impact of drug use within the workplace. As we see here, drug testing. It's a mandatory thing now, drug testing. So employers are requesting drug tests for prospective employees. Why do they want to do that? Why are they doing that? No employer wishes to have an employee who is a security risk for his or her company. When I say security risk, hey, this person is using drugs, so I might lose, they might become violent, they might steal something from my company. So that's a security risk. The organization image, they don't want to read on the newspaper, hey, but I know this guy is employed in my organization. And so organization must uphold its image. I don't have any employees who are using and who are charged by the law for possession of. Productivity. How is that affecting the productivity? You can't function effectively, cannot make decisions, effective decisions. You are late to work every day or absent when it's shift, you're not holding your end of the shift. 5 days, you have to go to work 8 to 4. You're reaching to work 9 o'clock. I'm gonna leave 2 o'clock. When you speak, you have no morals for the work. You're not feeling up to standard. You just living life. So your value system have changed. The way how you produce yourself, apply yourself, the way how you go to work, how you do your work, and you become a safety hazard for everyone. Because if you do something wrong and cause problems, you may shut down the machinery, you may cause physical harm to yourself and to other workers. So that is why these are some of the reasons that companies are doing the drug testing. So if you go back, you're thinking of yourself, I'm in Form 4, Form 5, and I'm doing this now. I may get away with it, but then it continue. In the early, as I said, you may become addicted. You may happen to get a job, but you have to go through these factors, the drug testing, and having substance in your system and continuous use can affect your productivity and can affect your career path. Because you may be an expert, you know exactly what to do. You may like mechanics, you could do the chemistry, you could do electrical, you're good at your hands, whatever. But since that you are under the influence so regularly, it affects your productivity and in turn the organization. All right. So what should I do now? Let's move on. Let us have some prevention tips. Don't be afraid to say no. You don't want it, you don't want it. Choose your friends wisely. Choose your friends. Nothing wrong in not being friends with someone who's smoking or who is using. You will live, you will have other opportunities. Avoid negative peer pressure. Instead of being pressured to use, why not turn it around and pressure them not to use? Positive peer pressure. Build your own self-esteem. I am who I am. I'm beautiful. I'm intelligent. I can do something positive without the use of drugs. I don't need you to validate how I feel. I am. Talk to your parents or someone who is trustworthy. As teenagers, you may have problems communicating with your parents. You're having a little pull and tug. But if you can find someone else, you have your guidance officers, you may have trusted uncles or aunts, or you may have some mature friend who you can speak to pertaining to the whole concept, the questions of substance use. If you're being always targeted, you're negatively towards using as in peer pressure. Get educated on the negative effects of the drugs. You're at this level, you are going towards advanced stages in your life and education. You could do research, the internet, Google. You just go into the computer and get more information pertaining to the effects of drugs. Ask for help. Ask for help if you need help, encouragement, how to deal with any situation that presents to you pertaining for you to use. Exercise. Yes, we have the restrictions, but you can still do something within your home area. All right. Get involved in sports or other extracurricular activities in school. School is shut down now. It's just for a period of time. But you can do something else. Use the internet wisely. You know, you can learn to play chess. You can do word search, do things to educate yourself. Keep away from the use of drugs. You may not be in school at the moment, but you're at home and your community maybe, or the community next to you, maybe the community that have all of the issues, keep away from it. All right. So some additional information to help you if you need assistance in dealing with it. We at NADA, best to send us an email because presently we are on lockdown as everyone else, some of the areas, but our emails, we still can access our emails. So on the emails, give us your name, your phone numbers, your relevant contact, and a little line or two about the issue, and we will get back to you. We also have the National Drug Council. You can also do the same thing. Use all the emails, and someone will get back to you. All right. So, on your guidance officers, on social workers in the school system, you can reach out to them, call the school, get the information, their phone numbers. If you do not have their personal numbers, you have the school numbers, and you can move from there. You have all the support needed. As we move on, the big concept, better knowledge towards your future, where this morning, just before I came on, I saw a little snippet of the motivational slide. Your whole concept, you dream it, believe it, you make it happen. So as we go along, we can see the bird in flight. The bird in flight, you dream it, believe it, make it happen. So the birds are flying, you can fly too to get to your dream. Don't use drugs, stay away from drugs. If you have any questions, any problems, ask and you will get the help. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a question. Is there a hotline number that we can contact you all at, Ms. Augustus?
As I said, we using the internet. So do you have a hotline? I can't say if anyone will be around at a particular time because of the new restrictions. So it's safer to use the internet. So we are always on the internet than the line.
Could you reiterate the information concerning the rehabilitation centers again, please?
Okay, that's if you go back to the slide, so everyone can see and they can take note of. We have the National Alcohol and Drug Abuse Prevention. We are the Ministry of Health. We're under the Ministry of Health. All right, and our email, nadaprograms@health.gov.tt. All right, after the lockdown, period and we are allowed to go back to work, everyone allowed to go back to work, they can use the contact numbers there at 627-3506, extension 205 to 207. So 205, 204, and 207. You also have the National Drug Council. The hotline, not hotline, but the contact number is 625-3394. And the email address is ndc@mns.gov.tt. Ministry of National Security.gov.tt. And you also have the Eric Williams Medical Science Complex at the inpatient unit, where there are various numbers, but I'm advising to use the email. So if you want, you can I'll still call out the numbers.
Thank you.
Right, 645-32 extension 2540 or 2542.
Okay, we have another
Child
question.
guidance unit also.
You all have a correct guidance unit
No, the child guidance unit.
or child guidance unit? Okay.
Yes. All right, so
One of the students is asking, what was the defining moment that led you to your profession?
oh, when going to university, there's this particular topic, youth and drugs, and the whole aspect, I just saw the word drugs. Youth and drugs was there, but what jumped out drugs? And from then on, I went along the pathway, studying first degree, completing masters, and doing other courses to lead up to a program officer at NADA. As I said previously, I was a guidance counselor, so that training where I had the exposure to youth, the children in general from primary and secondary level, I applied the training from all my different courses, and then here I'm settled as a program officer with NADA.
Thank you so much. Well, we want to thank Ms. Augustus for her time, and we know that the information that she gave to us would be very, very helpful. I know some of the students are probably surprised at what is in a cigarette, because they may think that, you know, it's all fun to smoke and a show thing, but there are so many components of a cigarette that we really didn't know about, that the students probably didn't know about. And that is why we discourage them from smoking cigarette as well as smoking cannabis. You know, Ms. Augustus, there were times I would have spoken to students and they would say to me, Ms. Primus, my father has been smoking for cannabis for 18 years and he's normal. What can you say to that?
Okay. What they are considering as normal is the outside appearance.
Yes.
As I said, it affects your health. So the organs in you which is being affected. All right. To check his normal level, ask him to walk briskly. And you see how fast he can walk. Ask him to run. And you will be able to see that. All right. So it affects everybody differently. So he may not have any outward appearance. Look at his fingers, look at his lip, his hair, his skin. It affects the entire body, the organs, outside as well as inside. And the skin is the largest organ that we have. So look at the skin. Besides aging, he will age, but look at the quality of his skin as he ages, you know?
Okay. Would you say that cannabis is a little advanced to cigarette? Is it worse than cigarette when it comes to affecting our body?
A little advanced. Okay, cannabis have a lot of different components. So no one cannabis or cigarette, marijuana cigarette have the same component. The planters, the growers, they put different things in, so it'll be different. The cigarette is one component in it. So it consists of these different things. So you don't know what is in the cannabis, but you have an idea what is in the cigarette.
Cigarette. So we want to thank you. We have no more questions.
I would just like to add a few things here, but I just omitted. With the cannabis, at this level now they're preparing for exams, and at times we tend to take things to help us to improve our memory and to perform well. And the edibles are on the market in various forms, the gummies, the chocolate, the cookies. Do you use that come around the time for exam and help me to perform better? It will not. All it will do is put you to sleep. You will forget what information you have studied, and generally you will fail your exam. And you may get yourself involved in the hands of the law because it's illegal in any form for you to consume cannabis. So remember, teenagers, adolescents, what will help you to be successful in your exam? You study, you focus, you ask the teachers for help, and you stay away from drugs. All right, and apply yourself diligently, and you will succeed.
Thank you so much, Ms. Augustus. It was a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for all the information that you shared with us. Oh, thank you for taking the time to be on our career fair with us. You know, it's always a pleasure to partner with NADAP. We really look forward to having you another time. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. And thanks for having us again.
You're welcome. So we just had Ms. Annette Augustus from NADAP, who gave us a whole lot of information. We are going to continue with our presenters. And right now, we have from Student Support Services, we have a presenter, Ms. Let me see. Not Mr. Ms. Hercules. Ms. Hercules, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, good afternoon.
And how are you?
Wonderful and blessed as always.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, thank you.
Looking forward to your information. We know Student Support Services is very exciting. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you and all that you have to share with our students. So
No
you
problem.
go ahead.
I just wanted to know if I have access for, so I have my screen up.
Okay, so I'm seeing your screen. Is that from you or from the tech?
That's from me.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Okay then, good afternoon everyone. And as Ms. said, my name is Lorraine Hercules. I'm a guidance officer attached with Student Support Services Division. This afternoon, I am here to share and let you all know some of the occupations that are basically some of the career opportunities that Student Support Services provide. First of all, let's discuss what our mission statement is. And our mission is to provide ongoing support for all students to maximize their learning potential, do well at school, achieve to the best of their capabilities, and develop holistically. Student Support Services was actually established in 2004, and some of the main strategic goals, of course, is to increase student success through different facets, through social work services for students with psychological and behavioral difficulties, through interventions for students with special needs, through support and early intervention, diagnosis and remediation, with counseling and specialized intervention strategies for students on extended suspension and other at-risk students, and as well as assessments. These are just some of the basic goals that Student Support Services Division we cover. We are divided into 4 basic sections: the diagnostic, assessment, intervention, social work, special ed, and guidance and counseling. So let's first discuss the guidance counselor or guidance officer and what Do you know the role of the guidance officer? Let us first look at what is guidance. And guidance is helping individual make wise choices, as well as encouraging growth, development, and achievement. The role of a guidance officer is here to listen to you in times of difficulty, to advocate on the child's behalf, to assist children with career planning and decision making, to help students understand themselves with the world in which we live in and the world in which we live in. What do? We do a number of things. Group guidance. We also do counseling, referrals, consultations, information dissemination, assessments, and we also have to have a lot of accountability, especially now with the situation as it is. Although we're working from home, we have to make sure that everything is accountable for. The qualifications for the guidance officer or counselor is as followed. Minimum experience and training is, of course, training as evidenced by the possession of a recognized university degree with a major either in guidance counseling or diploma in guidance and counseling, as well as experience in the field of guidance and counseling or any equivalent combination of experience and training. Also, if you do have a degree in psychology, that would also be helpful. Now I would like to pass over to my colleague, Ms. Aileen Baugh, to continue.
Thank you, Ms. Hercules. Good afternoon, everyone. I am also a guidance officer, but I will be talking about the social worker. So do you know the role of a social worker? Social work is basically the assessing of students' needs by doing home visits, you do personal interviews, and arranging assistance, whether it's financial or otherwise. We create linkages and sources of community governmental and non-governmental resources that's going to assist clients with special needs. And also, social work deals with participating in the delivery of parent education sessions on a variety of psychosocial issues. So, a social worker, these are some of the things that a social worker does. And if you read it, you'll realize it's pretty similar to what the guidance counselor does, but they do more in-depth work on a more individual level, right? So they interview individual students and members of their family in the diagnosis and evaluation of their difficulties, relates to teachers and guidance officers, those social, economic, environmental, and personal factors affecting students' behavior, prepares case histories, written reports, and confers with guidance officers on case reports. So that last one, that will fall under accountability. What are the qualifications required? So, minimum experience, you need a first degree from an accredited university in social work. Experience in social work for at least 3 years with at least 1 year internship in schools. All right, and now we're going to focus on the next branch, which is special education. So the special education department, before we even go there, let's focus on what special education is about. So it's a broad term that we use to describe the educational system for children who are differently abled. We provide special services and programs to address these students' individual differences and needs. Special education seeks to prepare students to lead productive, independent lives as citizens and members of society. And the special education department, we have the special education teacher, we have student aides, and we also have the interpreter assistant. And all of them work together to help students with special needs. So the special education teacher will teach students with special educational needs by developing and implementing individualized education plans and instructional programs in accordance with the approved curriculum. They will do observations and screenings and use informal tests for those students exhibiting special needs. And with everything, they have to make records and maintain relevant information to monitor the students' progress and make referrals where appropriate. All right, so the student aid now. They are responsible for assisting the teacher in providing support for students with special needs. They assist individual students with assistive devices, so whether it's braille machines, or if that child has physical disability, they may even assist the child to get to and from the classroom, maneuvering, opening and closing their book, turning the pages, all of those sorts of stuff. What are the qualifications now? Okay, well, let's do the interpreter assistant first. So the primary function is to facilitate communication among the deaf and hearing impaired students and their hearing peers, teachers, and other personnel involved in the students' education. Okay, so let's focus on the qualifications. For the special education teacher, we would require a first degree in education from an accredited university or certification in teaching as evidenced by the possession of a teacher's diploma or the equivalent, a minimum of 5 years experience in teaching students with special education needs. The student aid, you just require 3 O-levels, which would include English and certification in caring for children from a recognized institution. And for the interpreter, a minimum of 5 CSEC passes, including English and certification in sign language from a recognized institution. Now, with all 3 departments, so guidance, social work, and special ed, we need a referral form before we can start doing any work with the child. So this is about information about the referral process. Who can refer? Principals, teachers, school-based management team, parents, the student support officer, so whether it's the guidance officer, the social worker, local school board members, and for teenagers, you too can refer yourself. So this is the referral process. So the referral form is completed by the teacher or whoever decides to do the referral. It's submitted to the principal, and then it is submitted to the school-based team, whether it's in the primary level or secondary level. Once that has been gone through and discussed, then the principal will submit it to the student support personnel, whether it's the guidance officer or the school social worker. So these are the criteria for referrals. So academic, value of education, study skills, transition issues, examination techniques, school setting, aptitudes, other. So these are some of the reasons why a child may be referred. Okay? Go ahead. Okay, so if it's personal, social, are you having issues with regards to friendship, decision making, growth and development, social responsibility, peer relations, self-esteem? Or do you need career guidance? Do you need more information about different occupations? Do you need some more awareness with regards to careers? Are you struggling with regards to how you view yourself? Are you self-aware? Do you have problems with decision making? Do you need help with setting goals, identifying your interests and abilities? Do you just need help in preparing yourself for acquiring a job. So all of these are things that could warrant you wanting to be referred. Right, and that's basically, in a nutshell, what we do. This is our head office address at the Education Towers. These are the numbers, and you can always email us at sssd@gov. I don't know if that is right. So, Mr. Please, you'll need to let me know if that is the right thing there. So, do we have any questions?
Thank you so much. One of the questions we have for you today is, what made you want to become a guidance officer?
For me, honestly, I wanted to become a guidance officer after I wrote, well, back in my days, Common Entrance. I had passed for ModSec, and I actually wanted to get a transfer to NAPS. And when I actually got through the transfer to NAPS, however, while I was still going primary school, the guidance officer for ModSec came. At the time, it was Miss Denise DeBeek, and she gave a talk and told us about what her roles were as a guidance officer at that school, at San Fernando Government Secondary, now San Fernando Central, ModSec. And after she spoke and she gave us that talk, it really motivated me, and I decided not to transfer again to NAPS and to stay, because she made it seem that, you know what, she was there that I could depend on, I could come and talk to her. And I was like, you know what, I want to have that kind of impression on someone and be able to help someone, a teenager, a child, when it comes to making decisions in life. So that is what actually occurred. And from the time I was 11 and had that talk with her, when she came and she had that talk with all the students from St. Gabriel's who had passed for ModSec, I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. And I am very thankful and grateful that I accomplished that.
Thank you so much. Someone is asking, what is the most rewarding part of working with children?
Miss Boy, you want to take that one?
Okay. I think, especially when they now come in at infants, and then you see them develop and go to standard 5, and when they pass for their whatever school they pass for, and you see that joy. I think that's the most fulfilling part. Or when I have one story, there was a child who, when he came in infants, he did not like to stay in school. He would cry, and the parents would have to come and take him back. And it took a lot of sessions with him for him to start finally get comfortable in school. And now he's in standard 5 writing SCE. His twin sisters are now in second year. And to see how he has developed, how mature he is, how he's performing really well in his school, that gives me great joy. And he always reminds me when I see him, when we do online sessions, he reminds me, Miss, remember when I used to ball down the place and you helped me? So that makes me feel really good and makes me know that, okay, my job is not, I'm not working in vain.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd, but we are hardly, you are sounding a bit muffled. I don't know if you can adjust your speakers. Ms. Hercules, someone is asking, what is the difference between a primary school and a secondary school counselor?
With primary school, we actually have, I know it's secondary school, now they have their social worker as well as a special ed person. I know before it was the guidance officer in secondary school that was doing basically everything. Really and truly, there's not much difference. We deal with some of the same issues. It's just that, I guess, basically the ages of the children, the ages of the students, that is one of the main things. And in secondary school, most of the times you are assigned to one school, whereas in primary school, we are assigned to anywhere from 3 to about 6 different schools. So our population is very diverse when it comes to dealing with primary schools. Primary schools, we have, like in my case, I have 6 schools, 3 clusters and 3 out of cluster. And I know normally with secondary, they're usually in one school, and sometimes they would help with the other schools, but that's one of the main differences with primary to secondary.
Can you explain to us cluster? Because you're saying cluster, but I don't think the students.
A cluster
will have-
is basically a group of, where usually there are 61, in St. Patrick, there are 61 primary schools. And they're usually put into clusters where maybe 2 or 3 schools that are close by, or depending on the population, they are placed in groups of 3s or groups of 2s or 4s, so that if I am assigned to a specific cluster, I'm assigned to those 3 schools, and those are my 3 main schools. With your outer cluster schools, there may be 3 schools out of, as I said, we are very short-staffed. We have 61 primary schools, but only 13 guidance officers to service those 61 primary schools, so that there may be schools that are close to where your main 3 schools are that would need assistance for whatever reason. Any one of those things, whether it is personal, social, whether it's career guidance, whether it's academic help. And because of those things, we are assigned to 3 or maybe more out of cluster schools. So we have our 3 main schools that we work with that you see every week. And then the out of cluster is in case a referral or something comes up and they need assistance from whether it be the guidance officer, the social worker, the special ed personnel. And this is where they will deal with the outer cluster. Now the outer cluster is on a need basis, whereas the cluster schools, you basically go to those schools weekly.
Okay, thank you. Another question. Are there only female workers in Student Support Services Division?
We have very few males, and we would love to get a lot more males involved, because, and this is also in the teaching profession, if you think about it. So it's not a matter of what it's basically what we have right now. Mainly females are the ones who are coming out and applying for these positions, but we have very few males. I think maybe, wow. I know right now in primary we have none. I think in secondary we have 1, and that is, I think that's about it, but it is not anything that I could do. It's depending on the individuals who apply for the positions.
Okay, someone is asking about social work. So I don't know how you will answer this. Is being a social worker a dangerous job? I know you are a guidance counselor, but so when Ms. Boyd was making her presentation, she said that social workers are in the division.
Well, social workers, what happens? Social workers have a little more flexibility, whereas the social worker is the person who would be the person who would do the home visits. So if we have an issue, let's say absenteeism, where the child, like let's say, of course, before this situation, even now, we have children who are not logging on and all these sorts of stuff. If the child is referred for absenteeism, the social worker has that, is covered actually to do home visits as well as these sorts of interventions, whereas the guidance officer is not. So we cannot do home visits. It's only the social worker who is covered by law and by the Ministry of Education to do home visits when it comes to Student Support Services Division.
All right. Another question, is this a good career option if you are a very emotionally sensitive person?
I'm not hearing clearly that whoever is asking that question, whatever.
Is this a good career option if you are an emotionally sensitive person?
If you are, I didn't hear the last part of that.
Emotionally sensitive.
As I always tell people, I remember when I started, I had a colleague who told me, she was like, you will go broke. Because within the first year, the number of school books, bags, sneakers, different things that I bought for children who, it is very eye-opening, I would say, because you would be amazed of how many of our children in primary as well as secondary school, the different things that they are going through, and they still sometimes come to school with a smile on their face, and sometimes certain things they would not share. But you have to really and truly, as I said, you can't save everyone, but sometimes just that with them and you give them some encouragement. You tell them, you know what, I'm so happy to see you here in school today. I'm so happy to see you log on, because we are having this situation where there are children logging on for our sessions, guidance sessions, and not in classes. And the teacher is saying, you know, we need to motivate them. So really and truly, it will pull at your heartstrings. I'm not saying it wouldn't. You would need to a certain extent toughen up, but it will have days when you would just really and truly want to cry, and you try and see how best you can help and try to motivate people. I always say if you can help at least one, it's like dropping a stone in the sea, in the ocean. Once you drop a stone, you may not see anything, or once you drop it in still water, you would see the ripple. It has a ripple effect. So once you help one, it may motivate that person to help someone else. Are there any other
What
questions?
would you advise? What advice would you give someone who wants to join?
I didn't
Yes,
hear
this question is asking, what are the advantages and disadvantages of a guidance officer?
Miss, I'm not hearing you clearly. I didn't hear that question at all.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of a guidance officer?
What are the advantages and disadvantages of
the guidance officer?
the advantages and disadvantages? Well, as I always tell people, if you like what you're doing, it is not really work. So I really like what I'm doing. So I think one of the disadvantages is that really and truly you cannot help everyone, because there are some cases where you really wish that you could just take these children from their home and just save them. But it is else right now, I guess my house may have hundreds of children. And that is one of the disadvantages, is that really and truly sometimes we cannot help everyone, as well as the fact that we are greatly understaffed. And that is not only with guidance, as with Student Support Services Division on a whole. One of the advantages is, like Ms. Bond had said, when you see these success stories, because I have been in this occupation now for about 17 years, so I am now dealing with some of my, I have to say, my grandchildren, because I was there when their parents were in primary school, and now the parents have children, and they are now in the same school that I was the guidance officer for them. So from the time they see me, you know, it's like I have grandchildren. So those are some of the advantages. Sometimes I go places. Recently, I went in the hospital and I had a person walk up to me with the mask on. There's like, Miss Hercules, and I was like, okay, hello. And there's like, you don't know who I am? I say, okay, not really. And they told me what school, South Oropouche Government. And I was like, I said, listen, I say, I've been in this here so long, I have had thousands of children. So, and then they described a situation and they shared what was happening to them now. And I was really proud of that person. There are other, as I said, we all have stories like that. They have the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent. But we like to focus on everyone. So at least you could, even the negative ones, you could use that to at least teach the children now how to not make those same mistakes, or how to not go down that road. And to just enlighten them and let them know that, you know what, once you have faith and hope, and you know you have somebody to talk to when it comes to the guidance officer or the social worker, you know, once you are willing and able to admit or know, or even have yourself referred and submit to what are the structures or what the strategies that they recommend, you know, we at Student Support Services are here willing and able to help you. So that is basically the advantages and disadvantages.
What advice you will give young people who are thinking of this profession to encourage them to start their journey into this career?
I would encourage them really and truly to be persistent. Really and truly, this is a wonderful profession. I love what I do. I love to see when I could come in and talk to the children And it is very encouraging because like right now, my first year students, I have never met them physically, but even doing the sessions with them online, I have had cases where from the time I log in and I say good morning, I have the children, morning, Miss Hercules, and the excitement and that, you know, when you're leaving and when you're logging off and there's like, have a good day, miss, I can't wait for the next session. And sometimes you're thinking, okay, I have nothing planned for them next week. And the teachers and all are calling me and saying, miss, you don't have anything for these children next week? And I was like, no, I don't have them assigned for next week. And they were like, you know, the children asking, they want you to be there to encourage them, to motivate them, to teach them. And once you like, as I said before, once you like what you're doing, it isn't work. So right now, in all honesty, to me, this isn't work. This is my calling. So I enjoy it.
Well, we are very glad to hear that, Ms. Hercules. We don't have any more questions right now. Do you want to leave us with some words? And Ms. Boyd, could you leave us with some encouraging words for our students, please?
I think your theme says it all, really and truly. So if we follow what was said there, really and truly, I think that, and I think one of the key things I would say is keep having a growth mindset. Think positively. Do not let anybody or anyone deter you from your goal. It may be a long street, however, make sure that you are there and you are happy to do it, all right? Once you dream it, once you believe it, you can make it happen. So I think the theme alone says everything. And this is what I would definitely say. Ms. Baugh?
Ms. Baugh.
Okay, I hope you're hearing me better now. I think Ms. Hercules did such an excellent job. I don't know what to add. Well, the only thing I will say is, as a teenager, I know Childline has peer counseling, where they are trying to encourage young people to be peer counselors in their schools. So if it is you think that you have a gift and you would like to pursue guidance as a career or even social work, that could be something that you could volunteer and be a peer counselor. So you're helping your classmates with simple problem solving issues. So that will be one thing that I will suggest to you. And also take this time to practice self-awareness. Learn who you are, understand who you are, your strengths, your weaknesses, work on them. Now is the time to grow. We're always growing, we're always learning. And as Ms. Hercules said, once you love your job, it is no longer work. It's just something that you just wake up excited every day, looking forward to impacting lives. And don't ever think that you serve no purpose. You were born, you were placed on this earth for a purpose, and you will fulfill it once you just stick with it, one step at a time, one day at a time.
Thank you so much. One more question for you, Ms. Baugh. How long have you been working with Student Support Services Division?
I have been working for 12 years. Yeah, this year will make it 12 years. Wow.
Wow. Well, we really, really appreciate you and Ms. Hercules coming in and telling us all about Student Support Services Division and so many opportunities that we can acquire from this profession. And you know, it is such a noble profession. And we know that a lot of these students, as they listen and take note, they are going to make well-informed decisions. And we have to say thanks to a lot of the guidance officers, because when our children come in contact with a guidance officer, they actually come in contact with another parent. So we thank God for you all. So thank you very much. Have a blessed evening. We are looking forward to hearing from you again.
Thank you very much, Miss. Have a blessed one, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Thanks again.
Bye. So that was Student Support Services. They joined us in our journey. We are almost to the end for today, And we have another personnel from Student Support Services, but this person is in a different position. And we are going to say good evening to Mr. Delancey. Mr. Delancey, good evening.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you doing?
I am excellent. How are you, sir?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Happy to be here.
Well, it's very happy to have you. So,
Yes.
Delancey is going to speak to us about what he does in Student Support Services. So, sir, take it away. Thank you.
All right, not a problem. So I'm going to upload, I'm going to share my screen. It's going to take me just about 30 seconds.
Okay, so we are seeing your screen, sir. Okay, thank you.
All right, good. So today we will be talking about, for the next few minutes, about psychology and the fact that a number of you all may actually end up in this profession. Let me tell you a little bit about myself before we start. My name is Alec Delancey, and I work as a behavioral specialist with the Ministry of Education. I work in a section called the Student Services, all right, Student Support Services, and the section of Student Support Services that I work in is called the Developmental Assessment and Intervention Unit. Now, this unit, it is made up of, you can say, 3 sections. One, behavioral specialists, and I call that one first because I am a behavioral specialist. And 2, it is made up of clinical psychologists. And 3, it's made up of persons who are school psychologists. Now, we have been functioning for since 2014, so that's a few years now, but compared to the other units such as social work, guidance, and special education, we are pretty much the new kid on the block. So as a behavioral specialist, what I do is I look at specific behaviors that are being seen that are either unwanted or behaviors that may be seen and there is to be an increase in that particular behavior. So there's where I come in to motivate, to guide, to offer some strategies or some suggestions so as to increase a positive behavior or to decrease a negative one. In our section, as I made mention of a little while ago, we have school psychologists. They will work in the schools with children directly. And we have clinical psychologists who will also work with children, but they will do more of the testing, what they call psycho testing, psychometric testing, psychoeducational testing. So what I will do in terms of my assessment is called a functional behavioral assessment. And then what I will do is I'll create what is called a functional behavioral plan. So all that means is I observe the student, or I observe the person, and I make recommendations as to exactly what could be done so as to strengthen a specific behavior or to lessen one that is not wanted. So that's what a behavioral specialist does. So feel free as I go through the presentation to keep questions, because I'll be looking forward to some questions at the end. I like questions, and ask me as many questions as possible. So today, what are we going to talk about? Well, we're going to talk about, so you want to be a psychologist. Really? You want to be a psychologist? Well, if you want to, if not just be a psychologist, but you want to work in the field of psychology. So you may not want to be a psychologist particularly, but you may want to work in the field of either mental health or persons who are teaching. You may want to work in that field, or you may want to work in special education. So it's really up to you as to what you want to decide. But of course, I have the word psychologist because, well, I'm a psychologist. Also, I will be talking about psychology and not just about being a psychologist, but psychology on a whole. But more than that, the focus will be on psychology as opposed to psychiatry. Now, psychiatry, we do appreciate our brothers and sisters in the field of psychology, of psychiatry rather. They are medical doctors and they prescribe medication when it comes to mental health. As a psychologist, we are not involved in any kind of prescription of medication. If a person is using medication, then a psychologist could monitor them and make sure that they're taking it on time and look at the side effects and discuss some of the strategies that they can do if they're missing their medication and so forth. But we don't prescribe medication. So that's the big difference you can see. There are some similarities. A number of us will do counseling, psychologists and psychiatrists will do counseling, some of them, and some will do assessments and so forth. But the big difference is when it comes to medicine. A psychiatrist is a medical doctor who practices in the field of psychology, and a psychology is an expert when it comes to testing theories, working with behavior, counseling, therapy, behavior modification. That's our area of specialty. So let's talk now. Psychology. Well, psychology was understood actually through the eyes of a specific perspective. At one time, it was understood that psychology could be seen through the eyes of a philosopher. So you had all these philosophers who will sit down, and you may have seen the picture, some of them, they're thinking away. And they're thinking about human behavior and exactly how humans can become better at specific things. And that is what philosophy was all about. So they were looking through the eyes, as the early psychologists, they were looking through the eyes of the philosophers, or like Plato and Aristotle and Socrates, just to name a few. So here it is, they were coming up with, okay, it is possible that this person is behaving this way because his philosophy, his ideology, his thinking, his thoughts, the way he processes things, it is based on his philosophy. But there was a slight problem with that. At a certain time, psychologists realized that, wait a minute, it wasn't working out all too well by looking at philosophy. It's nice to maybe study the work of Plato and Aristotle, but it's not really giving you what you want, because in some cultural contexts or some cultural circles or some places in the world, Aristotle and Plato, their ideas wasn't really meshing, it wasn't adding up. People weren't behaving as Aristotle said they should have behaved given a specific circumstances or something that may have happened in their life. So psychologists started to listen more. So they will sit down and they will listen and listen and listen. And then they will talk a little bit and make some suggestions, and then they will listen and listen and listen and listen some more. And that was good. And that is still something that psychologists do today. A number of them, who work not in the field of research, but they work in the field of possibly counseling, where you will see in this picture here, two persons sit down, they will listen a lot, because the objective is to understand the person, understand how they think, their likes, their dislikes, and so forth. But then that wasn't enough either. So then the question was, what could they do next? So they decided, as psychologists, we decided, let's look inside the brain. Let's look inside the head. After all, where do thoughts originate? Well, we strongly believe it originates from the brain. So let's look inside of it. So we started to look inside of what the brain looks like, look at the emotional part, look at the part that is responsible for higher level thinking and organizing. And we started to say, okay, maybe this is why the person is behaving this way. And that's it. So it's their brain. And to a reasonable degree, it will have satisfied some questions. But you know what? It didn't satisfy all. And as such, we still were faced with a question: what is psychology? What is working in the field of psychology entails? Is it philosophy? Or does it have something to do with philosophy? Is it that I just have to listen and listen and listen and the person will be healed? Well, some persons, once you listen, give them a listening ear, they will pretty much solve their problems for themselves, but there are others who are unable to do that. So listening wasn't it alone. Then just looking at the brain and trying to figure out why, okay, is it a brain damage? Is it that this person is thinking this way because of what they're eating and it's affecting their brain, or their brain didn't develop properly? Is it because of that? Or is it something else? So exactly what do psychology do? Well, to give away my age a little bit, and if you don't know Ronnie McIntosh and the song Ent, then you need to go and YouTube it. But Ronnie McIntosh sing this song, Carnival is color, Carnival is mass. Now in Trinidad, of course, because of COVID-19 for a little while, we have not had any kind of cultural expression where Carnival and mass is concerned in the sense at which it used to be previous to COVID. However, what psychologists did is that they took all the ideas, listening and philosophy and brain science, and they did what Shadow said. Now, you're getting a cultural discussion here too going, so you had to appreciate it. Shadow says, you remember that song Dingole? I don't know how much of you all remember that song, but if you did, we did a dingole. We did a nice little cultural dance. That's what psychologists do. We take every single thing, philosophy, thinking, cognition, biology, we take counseling, behavioral modification, all the theories, we mix it together and we say, you know what? That will help us to understand psychology. So the umbrella, you could say now is called psychology, but you will have persons who work in the field of psychology who do not sit down and ask anybody, how do you feel? No, that's not all that psychologists do, but they will be involved in other things. And we'll look at a little bit in a little while underneath. We'll look at it and see exactly what some of those things are. So I don't want to let out the secret as yet, but you will see it. Exactly what are some of the areas that psychologists or those who are in the field of psychology practice. And you might be surprised about some of them. So after this whole dingole and mixing together ideas as to what constitutes or what is psychology, where can I work as a psychologist? Well, one dead giveaway is the Ministry of Education. I am here, I'm a psychologist. My background is actually in the field of educational psychology. That's where I did my graduate studies in. I did a bachelor's degree, and that was in behavioral science, psychology, and sociology. Sociology, I mean, to our sociological brothers and sisters, you know, we had to appreciate you guys. You all also contributed to psychology. So I did some sociology as well for my undergrad. But for my graduate work, I did educational psychology, and it was in testing, learning, development, and research. Those were the four kind of areas I focused on with my master's degree. So where can you work do? Well, remember I just talked to you about some of the degrees or some of the qualifications you should have. So some of the fields will require you have some of these. Now, these are not all. In psychology, there's a wide array of what qualifications you can get when it comes to human behavior, cognition, neuroscience, general psychology, behavioral science, behavior modification. The list could go on and on. A matter of fact, there's about 54, 56 different sections in what is called the American Psychological Association. That's generally an association that house a number of specialties. So, for example, if eventually you want to get in the field of forensics and criminal studies, that's a good area to get some research information on. AP has a little section there. If you want to get involved in trauma studies, they have articles that they also publish on the specific section there. If you want to get involved in personality studies or behavioral studies, there are a number of sections in American Psychological Association. Of course, that's not the only psychological association around the world. There are many. Trinidad here, we have our local one as well. But these are some of the qualifications that you can get in order to work in the field of psychology. Now, generally speaking, in most countries in the world, including Trinidad and Tobago, if you have just above a bachelor's degree, so a master's degree, you can actually be considered as a psychologist. Once you have a master's degree in a specific psychological field, such as educational psychology, school psychology, clinical psychology, any of those, once it's a master's or above that, you can be considered a psychologist. Now, in a number of places in the world, you have to be registered and you actually have to belong to specific associations. Eventually, Trinidad will be getting there. However, all psychologists in Trinidad and Tobago hold and should hold the high ethical standards as any psychologist all over the world that subscribe to ethical, high moral standards when it comes to working with patients. Because of course, and although I say working with patients, it doesn't mean that that's the only place in psychology you will work with patients. For example, we'll talk a little bit about that as we go along. But keep in mind, these are just some of the degrees that you can get. One person asked me a time, so I need a PhD. Well, you could do a DPsych or you can do something else. So you don't necessarily need a PhD. A PhD is more like a research degree. A DPsych is more like some research, yes, but you also do some other work like counseling and therapy and coaching and so forth. So these are some areas now that we were talking about. These are them. We have teaching, lecturing. Now, at one time I used to do some lecturing at one of the universities in Trinidad, and it was a really nice experience. So you can get in the field of lecturing. I was lecturing in the undergrad early childhood, right? So it was a really nice experience, nice teaching experience. So if you are interested in the field of psychology, it's an area you can get into. Teaching, lecturing, and if you really like it, you can get into academic research and so forth. Coming on the heels of that, research and writing. Now, I have writing books, but it can be just writing essays, writing papers, publishing them, and so forth. I know a number of psychologists, in addition to working just with either patients or probably working in an organization, like working with people who are involved in maybe marketing, and I have that in a down there, but they're working in a marketing environment. You as a psychologist could work as an organizational psychologist, helping them to figure things out so that they can be more effective. So that's one area you could also do research in. So you may not work directly with persons in marketing or sales or advertising, but you could actually do research in that area and kind of figure out what persons will best need in order to be more meaningful in the workplace. And then you have counseling, testing, coaching, mental health, productivity, motivation, addiction, and so forth. There's quite a vast number of things that you can actually do when it comes to counseling. Of course, there's a word of caution, and it has to do with sometimes, unfortunately, some of us in the profession of psychology believe that we can counsel every single issue that persons may have. That's not true. Could you imagine going to a doctor, a medical doctor that is, and you have a heart problem, but he specializes in probably nose and throat, and you say I have a heart problem. Now, he may know, of course, definitely he will have gone to medical school, so he must know something about the heart. But in order to really get a deep dive into exactly what's going on with your heart, you need to go by someone who practices cardiology or something of that sort. So in the field of counseling and testing and even coaching, there are different kinds of counselors. So a person may be involved in depression and anxiety counseling, but they may not necessarily be a specialist in the field of ADHD or autism. Or a person may be a specialist when it comes to working in the counseling field with adults, but when it comes to children, that's not where their expertise lie. So testing, same thing. There are some tests, there are hundreds of tests, hundreds of screeners, probably thousands of tests and screeners. And some psychologists might be more proficient or able to do some. They may like some kinds of screening or some kind of testing. Maybe it's just for the purpose of trying to figure out how best to provide a service, or it might be for a diagnostic purpose. So some persons working in the field of psychology may actually do that kind of work, testing. They're not really too much involved at times with working with counseling clients per se, but they will do the test for the purpose of getting a diagnosis, and then they may refer it to someone else. Of course, coaching is a big thing. Everybody needs to be motivated at times. Everybody needs some kind of inspiration at times, and sometimes you have to talk to a person to get them to move. So you have things like sports psychologists and sports persons who work in the field of psychology in motivating, or you may have public speakers who do coaching, and they may be able to get you to get off the couch and get some work done, and they motivate you, they push you using their words and using techniques to help you to actually get things done. So that too persons who work in the field of psychology, they can actually get involved in that kind of work. And of course, addiction. There's a number of different kinds of addiction. A popular one today seems to be the addiction when it comes to social media, addiction when it comes to video games, addiction when it comes to just either eating or something of that sort. So persons who work in the field of psychology can work with specific clients or specific people who have specific issues that they want to work with on or with, or they can be working with a multiple number of different issues. However, again, the caution is if you're going to work in the field of psychology, it's always good to keep in mind either the area you want to go into or the specialization, or if you want to be a generalist. And we'll come up to that in a little bit because that is so much key. So the question therefore is, let's jump right into those questions. Should I specialize? Should I be a generalist? Should I be someone who, well, if I'm working with a client, maybe into sports, so I can work in the field of sports, and I am only working with clients who have issues in sports. So probably it's performance issues. They're not running as fast. They could do it, but they're just not running. Maybe there's some kind of mental block they have going on there. Maybe some hurdle they have to overcome. They probably had some childhood experience and it's affecting their productivity or performance, or they probably had a recent issue in the family that is affecting their performance. Olympics coming up, you had to get them at their peak performance, and they can do it physically, but mentally they're probably not there. And you want to be able to be in sports psychology so that you can help that person out to get at peak performance. So that could be a specialist. Or you can have a person who is general. Although again, the word is general, it doesn't mean that every single, so if it's schizophrenia, you can handle it. If it's multiple, if it's dissociative, if it is ADHD, if it's autism, you can handle it. No, that's not what I'm saying. But a generalist might be someone who may have a few specific strategies that he or she can use to treat with a number of ailments or concerns or presenting issues of a mental nature. All right, so you have to decide that if you want to be a generalist or a specialist, you want to work in the field of sales with persons who are into sales and marketing, and you want to be able to help them to get at their peak performance, you have to decide that. And it's based pretty much on your personality and your expectation, right, when it comes to what you want to do. All right, so it's your personality and your career expectation determine that pretty much, because what I may like, you may not like it. And I may like working with persons who might be in the criminal system, and probably I'm working to reform them so that they can come out of prison, live a more meaningful life among society. But you don't want to work with a population. Maybe you want to work with figures, or you want to work with research. So you prefer to do some observation, do some research. You like statistics, you like mathematics, but you want to work in the field of psychology. You can get into that aspect or that career path. So it's really up to you as to exactly what you want. What is my idea? Okay, so my idea is, should you be a generalist? Or should you be someone who is specific or niche down? Well, general, then focus, or stay general. That's my answer. If you want to be in a specific niche, and when I say niche, you want to work with a specific client when it comes to mental health issues or psychological issues, I'm saying to you, that's fine. You can work with that person, but try to get as much information as possible so you really know if that's the area you want to work in. And if you want to stay working in the area where you work with multiple different kinds of psychological issues, then that's up to you as well. The objective is for you to just grow. Right? In Trinidad and Tobago, we need a lot of psychologists, a lot of people in mental health. We need a lot of psychiatric social workers. We need a number of people who work as counselors, who work in the field of education, counseling education. We need persons who are working special education to work with the population that may have some mental health issues and probably want to be in school, or their parents want them to be in school, in the mainstream school that is. So you can come in and work with that population so as to help them to really excel in whatever area they want to excel in, or probably it's in the field of working with addiction, and you want to work not just with addiction across the board, like eating and smoking, marijuana, cooking. You're really not interested in all the addictions. You probably just want to focus on eating addiction, or cooking addiction, or alcohol addiction. That's all you want to focus on. You don't want to really focus on too much other addictions. Then you can do that. Or if you want to focus on multiple addictions, it's up to you. Once you can find the commonality and the techniques that you're using is something that you truly could feel comfortable with. Of course, some persons will ask, could I work privately? The answer is yes. There are a number of people in Trinidad and Tobago who are actually working in the private sector, that is, maybe it's a company, or you're working for yourself as a psychologist or a mental health practitioner or professional, or you might decide to work for a government agency. That's up to you. Ministry of Education. I'm not recruiting, I'm just saying, right? Feel free when applications are there. All right, or you can work for other, in national security, there's community development. So you could decide. Or there are a number of there's health, Ministry of Health. You can decide, right? Because there's a number of areas you can go into so that you can become an expert, or you can be a generalist working in the mental health profession. Of course, I think before we heard that we kind of short staff, so Ministry of Education, right? All right. So areas that may be seeing some career growth in psychology soon, these are some of the areas, and these are just some of the areas in the world that I think, okay? It may not be the case in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, probably in the next 1 year, it may not be the case. But this is what I feel. This is my personal take on it. I strongly believe that going forward in the field of psychology, AI, artificial intelligence, is something that will become very much involved. Psychologists will become, or people in mental health will become very much involved in artificial intelligence. Why I say that? Because right now, where are you listening to me from? From a screen. And I strongly believe that I think this is being recorded. So if you don't hear it now, you're going to hear it again. So we're using technology. We're using the internet. We're using cell phones. We're using, long ago it was a desktop, a big thing that you had on top of your desk. No longer. We have phones. We have laptops. We have things that are so small that we can actually fit into our bodies now. And how psychology works is that a number of people are doing research on how do we interact with machines, right? Do we feel the same way? Or is it if I interact with a machine, eventually I could lose my personality? So I could start caring less. So a number of people are doing research as to see exactly if interacting, because quite frankly, I'm not seeing anybody on the screen. I'm just talking. So does that affect how I present? So a lot of the research is being done into artificial intelligence, exactly what it does to our psyche, our minds, our memories. Because now you want to find something, you just Google it, right? Now try to study it. A number of you, what, from 4, 5, 6, you need to study, right? You have exams coming up. But the truth is, a number of professionals, we don't know something long ago, we have to go to a library and we have to go and search through some big thick books. Now I just take my phone up and I just Google it and I figure out exactly how to treat with this particular issue or that particular issue, right? So artificial intelligence, people losing limbs, and they now having these robotic arms. How do they control it with their nervous system? You see, how do I control this arm? Because it works just as good as this one, right? So that's the direction. You may be aware that Neuralink, Tesla guy, he's doing some work research into actually putting it chips in the brain. So those are just some of the things that I think moving forward, we will definitely have to treat with as psychologists or working in the field of psychology. Educational neuropsychology, I think it's becoming more and more popular. Long ago, as we had started off this presentation talking, was about philosophy. No longer it's about philosophy. People need to learn, not just in school, in the workplace, people are learning, people are acquiring information, but how are they actually learning? How are their brains taking in the information? How is it that they are using memory? I once heard Howard Gardner say, he says persons have multiple abilities to acquire information. They may have preference, and Howard Gardner was a psychologist. They may have preference as to what they should, what they want to learn, and they may have preference as to how they choose to learn it. So neuropsychology is actually becoming quite popular in education. So those are some areas I think that we should strongly look at. And if you're getting into psychology, this is just my feeling. AI, educational neuropsychology, is something that is becoming popular. And of course, counseling and coaching, that is not going anywhere. However, the way in which we do it, because right now, most of the psychologists, a number of them are actually doing it online. They're talking to persons behind screens. We're using emails, we're using WhatsApp, we're using the internet to communicate with clients. That's how it's being done because, of course, COVID-19. But outside of COVID-19, it is quite possible that while some clients will benefit from face-to-face coaching and counseling, the research is showing is just as effective as if the person is behind the screen, you protecting yourself from COVID-19 and possibly from having to travel or drive to a specific location. And, so counseling and coaching in terms of using technology is something that's becoming popular. Now, the question is, who do we know? Who do we know from Trinidad in psychology right now? All right, Professor Frank Worrell. If you never heard about him, you could Google him. He's actually going to be the president of the American Psychological Association in 2022. And that's a big deal because there's a number of sections that he'll be responsible for. And he's from Trinidad, born and bred right here. All right, so that's good. He's an educational and school psychologist. So that's great. And he's a really friendly, nice guy from Trinidad and Tobago. So that's pretty much all that I have for you. Of course, I know you have some questions now, so I eagerly await your questions. So moderator,
Yes,
I'm listening.
That was quite a mouthful, and we thank you for it. So you have a barrage of questions at you. Let me start one. How did you get into the field, and who impacted you? How did you get into the field, and who impacted you?
All right, good. That's a good question. Now, I probably was about 12 years or so. 12 years old. I went to Point Fortin Anglican Primary School, and when I was about 12, so just about to write at the time the common entrance, right? Not the SCA, common entrance. I read this book. I think it was from Stephen Covey, and it was really enlightening. Then I ended up going to a secondary school. I went to Point Fortin Senior Secondary. At the time, PFC, I think it's Point Fortin West or East, Point Fortin East now. And then Point Fortin, yeah. And then I went to Southern Academy where there was this teacher, Kamau was his name. I don't know where he is now, but he introduced me to behavioral science. And so I went over to, it was CUC at the time. It's USC now, University of the Southern Caribbean. And I did an Andrews University degree on that campus. And there was a gentleman professor by the name of Ferdinand. He did a career test with me. It was a Holland career test, and it pinpointed 3 things. One of them was a counseling psychologist. The other one was a clinical psychologist. And the third one was a pastor. So that's how I actually got into the field of psychology.
Okay, thank you. You're giving away age. You say you went to Point for 10 senior secondary school. Okay, our next question is, how challenging is it to get someone to modify their behavior?
Right. There are some persons, it is very easy. They come to you and know exactly what they want to do, but they just want a person, a second person to just give them that extra push in a direction that they themselves know that they have to go in. So for them, it's really easy. There are another group of persons, it's very difficult for them. You're pushing them, they may make 2 steps, they make 3 steps backward, they make 4 steps forward, then they make 10 steps backward, then they feel like giving up. So with some clients, it can be very challenging to work with them. However, once a client continues to come back to show up, it means that they want to do some kind of modification to their personality, to their, well, maybe not necessarily personality. They want to have a dominant personality, because the personality generally may not change, but they want to have a dominant personality that they can say, okay, this is what I really want for myself, as opposed to what I'm thinking right now. And even though what I'm thinking right now, I won't forget it, but that's how memory works. You don't really forget who you are or who you were unless there's some kind of brain abnormality or some mental health concern. But you're able to retrain yourself, learn new things, and therefore be able to do those new things that you want to do in your life. And that's really, really hard. A matter of fact, some persons who make significant changes after doing something really, really hard, such as stopping smoking marijuana, quitting alcohol, stopping cocaine, that's not easy. And they must be commended for that. So there are some clients that when you work with them, it's really easy. They know what they want. And there are some clients, it could be very frustrating for them. And even as a clinician, you are a human being too. It could become frustrating for you at times. However, you just take the same medicine that you're giving out to persons. You use your calming techniques. You do your positive self-talk. You do a reflective practice, and you continue working with the population if it is that that's the area you want to work in.
Thank you. Another one is, what is a day like in the field, in your field that you work?
Right. So I could tell you about a day in my life. It will vary from psychologist to psychologist. But for example, I'm involved in writing, so I write a lot. Okay, I write about motivation and education and psychology and behavioral science, and so I write. That's one. I also work with students and parents and teachers. Because I now work for the Ministry of Education. I also do some additional things. I won't say what that is now, but it's like private work that I do. And so I work with additional clients outside. And but generally, it's you work with clients, you write reports, and I generally write reports, do research, work with clients, counseling clients, and I also have meetings. Meetings are like a part of a psychologist's life. In addition to writing a lot, you have meetings to attend. Sometimes you have meetings with parents, with teachers, and you always have to meet with the client, right? So there's a lot of meetings. Sometimes I have to meet with my supervisor, right? I have to meet with management. And yeah, so that's pretty much a day in my life. It could be draining at times, but it could also be a little rewarding as well.
Thank you. Did you study animal behavior as well?
Right, that's a good question. A matter of fact, one thing that I failed to say at the beginning is that I was also doing pre-med. Eventually, I didn't continue because I realized that's not where my passion was, but I was doing pre-med, and one of the emphasis was in zoology. So yeah, I stayed on the microscope for a few years and I study animal behavior, but not necessarily from the perspective of looking at their instinct and how they react to each other, but was more internal organs and physiology and anatomy.
Okay, thank you. Do you recommend merging psychology with other disciplines? Please provide an
100%.
example.
100%. Yeah, definitely. Psychology is long ago it was just the armchair thing. You sit down, you talk, but that's not how it is anymore. I mean, hats off to person-centered approach, Adlerian approach, Carl Rogers, Carl Hung, Sigmund Freud. Hats off to Gillian. Hats off to B.F. Skinner. They did really good work. They were the founding fathers of psychology. And we have to appreciate and continue to appreciate and continue to incorporate the work that they did. However, psychology is at the point where we can no longer just rely on one specific modality. We can't just look at, okay, I'm a person-centered psychologist, so that's all I'm doing. Because it may work in some situations, it may not work in others. And not saying, of course, that if you're a psychologist, you can heal every single person. There are some people, some clients, some groups, some organizations, they will be resistant to change. And that is something we all have to contend with. However, cognitive neuropsychology education, mix that together with behaviorism, mix that together with, of course, your work of Carl Rogers and the Sigmund Freud, you're mixing all of that together. Even mathematics and statistics, you're mixing that all together with psychology, because we have to be able to look at frequency of behaviors, see what's improving, see if what is not or who is not improving, and what could be done differently in order to modify the behavior. So yes, merge criminology, merge forensic into psychology. A lot of mergers should be taking place in order to truly understand the mind. The human mind is a very complex thing. It is maybe just a surface we're scratching with regards to our knowledge of thought, of thinking. So, and as was made mention of in the presentation, even AI, artificial intelligence, that is becoming something that we are merging into psychology. We are looking at how people are in the workplace, how people relate to each other in the workplace, which team is more productive as opposed to which team is not. Although both teams may have the knowledge, the insight, the specialization, but one team are high performing and the next team are low performing. So we're not just looking at IQ anymore. That was something that they used to depend on heavily, but that's not really so important. Of course, to some extent with some jobs, yes, IQ, but what they're looking at now in the field of psychology is a more deep dive into anatomy, physiology, so see how the human body actually contributes to thinking, how hormones, how the nervous system, central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, how all of that, how eating and diet contributes to how early childhood experiences, how sociology, how cultural contexts, all of that influence a person's thinking and behavior and feeling. So yeah, merge everything.
Is that Callaloo you're talking about?
Is a Adingoli.
Okay, what do you like most about your job? What do you like the most about your job?
Right. So although I did emphasis in research and testing, it's if I have to make a choice, it wouldn't be the direction I'll go. I'll prefer to talk to people like I'm talking now. I will prefer to sit and do counseling. I prefer to do behavior modification. And that's pretty much what I like. I like to write about psychology, about thinking, about behavior. I prefer to do so that aspect of the science as opposed to the calculations and the numbers and the statistics. That's nice, but that won't be the first thing that I will jump at. I prefer more to talk, to read, and to write.
Okay, coming down. We are winding down now. What type of interests, abilities, and skills would help a person to be successful in your occupation?
Good, that's a nice question. Well, of course, jumping out us, you have to be a people person if you want to work with people. If you don't, it's a nice skill to still have because we live in Trinidad and Tobago, we live among people, you have people skills. But in terms of if you want to work in the field of research, having an analytical mind is important. So for example, to borrow an idea from the physicists or physicist brothers and sisters, to borrow the idea of the first principles, you had to be logically thinking. You have to be able to do your mathematics and your calculation and your statistics. And that will be your main focus. Yes, you're a people person, but you don't really interact with much clients. But if it is that you are interacting with clients, you need to be able to be very sociable. You need to listen a lot. We use the word active listening. Maybe that's a good word to use. But you're listening in a way so as to not just respond, because not always a person says something to you and you know how to respond. Sometimes you don't. You're not in their situation, so you don't know really how to tell them, okay, this is what you need to do, this is what you have to do, right? But listening so as to ask questions, because sometimes together, psychologists, a therapist, organizational psychologists, educational psychologists, a school psychologist, is only together working with the client, you're best able to understand. So listening with a view, not just to respond, but listening with a view to see if you can ask more questions so that you can have clearly an image in your mind as to what is the experience of this particular person. So then you can make a suggestion. That's generally what we do. We make suggestions. People determine if they take our suggestions or not. And if they do take it and it works, then they will become more resilient, and they will either, one, be able to build on what they're learning using the information, or they may come back to us and say, okay, what else do you have for me? But listening, writing is important. You have to be able to write. Of course, you don't have to be the great novelist, the Hemingway and that's not necessary. The poetic language is good, but not necessary. But you have to be able to write clearly so that if you give a report to a doctor, or you give a report to a magistrate, or you give a report to a social worker, they should be able to read it and realize, okay, this is what the presenting problem or concern is, and this is what you want me to do. So you have to be able to write clearly, listen, and even speak in a way that people could truly understand what you're saying.
Mr. Delancey, we cannot say thank you enough. You have given us so much, even in answering the questions. We are very grateful. You have such a wealth of knowledge. We take a lot from you. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to spend with us this evening. So we want to say thank you, and we are going to contact you if we need you in our individual schools. I know even though school is closed, you are still very busy. So, all right, we are seeing. Okay, so thank you very much. Have a blessed evening, sir.
You're welcome. Take care. Yes.
So we had Mr. Delancey from Student Support Services. He spoke to us on psychology, and we are winding down to the end. We want to say thanks to all the persons who work hard behind the scenes, Ms. Tall, Mrs. George, the tech person, Ms. Makisa, Ms. Trisha. Thank you all very much, all our presenters. We thank you. Today has been a beautiful day, a very successful day, and we are going to be back tomorrow with agencies from Creative Trinidad and Tobago Film Company, Trinidad and Tobago EGAD, Central Bank, and Caribbean Nazarene College. So we are expecting to see you all again tomorrow. You have a blessed day. Goodbye.